Good evening. Welcome to the Land Use and Building Management Committee meeting of Wednesday, August 7th. It is 7:00. I'm calling the meeting to order. First item is roll call. Tonight we have with us council members Jim Frayer, Heather Dunn, Nicole Eady. Welcome, Nicole. This is her first Land Use and Building Management meeting. Greg Burnett, and we are expecting also council member Nicole Ayers, and DeJuan Wiggins will be absent tonight. Moving on to public participation. Is there anyone who is in the attendees who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand.
Diane Loricella.
Okay, you could go ahead and move her over. There you are. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Loricella.
Good evening, Chairwoman Smith and the committee and the staff. For the record, my name is Diane Loricella, Little Fox Lane in Norwalk. Tonight, I have a few items in my time that I have a question and comment. The first is, of course, I'm looking forward to listening to 4A, the Hazardous Materials and Remediation Strategy Plan. That is in my bailiwick. I wasn't able to find a copy of it. So during that discussion, I'd like to know where the public, especially someone like myself with a unique background, once having been a hazardous waste investigator with the state of Connecticut doing remediation work later on, and then where can I find this plan? I'd just like to look at it. I'm sure I look forward to listening. Item 5, A2, Building Management Municipal Building Capital Improvement Evaluation. I wanted to know, are you, in doing this, who is doing the work of the capital improvement evaluations, or how many different entities and specialties? Will it include energy use and production, or green, a net zero energy model? Will they be looking for rebate potential and also reducing fossil fuel use? Number 3, and my last comment and question under Board of Ed, item B2, 5B2. I really, I'm a member of the Connecticut Healthy Schools Coalition, made up of IAQ, indoor air quality, and HVAC specialists. It's a statewide group. I'm doing some homework, still not finished, but why do we need a full-time construction manager for the HVAC programs that are going to be funded? I hear once again that the Construction Solutions Group, I looked at at what you're looking at on the agenda, and I find the money, fiscal restraint seems to be absent here. I'm very curious about why there's a $10,000 allowance for additional services above and beyond the reimbursable services, in addition to the baseline services. And I know some of you on this call as council people are interested in financial considerations. So I'd like to know, number 1, why do we need a full-time person to handle this when we're on number 3, we're going to be hiring a assumingly qualified engineering firm that has many and should be able to handle communication and keeping track of their contract. I can understand why a part-time person might be needed, or someone could be hired in the building division, but for Construction Solutions Group, when you add up all the additional reimbursables and allowances, their total price seems to be very close to the second bidder. And so I'm just kind of concerned, and very concerned about lack of fiscal restraint here. I know that you're going to be given all
Loricella, you're at 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, I will wind up. Thank you for the time. I do think that we need to use more fiscal constraint here, and there is no need for a full-time construction manager for the HVAC job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loricella. Is there anyone else who is wanting to speak?
If you wish to address the committee, please raise your hand electronically at this time.
Okay, looks like not. So I will go ahead and close public participation and move on to the approval of the minutes of the July 2nd, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Freyer makes the motion. Are there any changes, deletions, additions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and that's 1, 2 abstentions. 1, 2. Okay, so we have 3 in favor and 2 abstentions. Okay, very good. We can move on to new business under item A, building management. Review sole source designation for the, oh, I'm sorry, old business. Sorry, for old business. A, review schools hazardous materials remediation strategy plan. So I believe it was in the May meeting, Mr. Burnett had asked for a monthly update on the remediation how it's moving along, but also just to learn about what the strategy is and the planning is. And so I know that we didn't have any information last month, but Bill Hodel is here to give us an update and give us some information about the facilities plan.
Well, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I did send an email earlier this week, since I'm not at the point where I'm ready to give a full assessment of the asbestos management plan or the hazardous waste management plan. Reason is we've had a very busy summer, and there's a lot to do in terms of compiling a comprehensive plan for the entire district. As noted, we've been primarily addressing the areas that are most in contact that have hazardous materials, asbestos-containing materials on flooring products. We've been addressing that in many schools, and I think the question was, what's the overall comprehensive plan over time, including such areas like pipe insulation, perhaps in some cases, ceiling tiles, and whatnot. And that's where I am lacking that information right now, to put a comprehensive plan together, of which I think I can have for the future meeting. And that's something we can begin a intelligent dialogue about. Again, where I come from and what the industry mainly addresses is the products that are coming most in contact with people on a daily basis. In that case being the flooring tiles. And also a lot of the flooring tile in the district has come loose and unglued and so on and so forth. And that has to take the priority. So if you don't mind, I'd like to provide a better assessment at a future date. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Burnett, go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Smith. Thank you, Bill, for that update and the email that you sent. The Assistant Superintendent Sandra Fayos also sent some commentary, which was appreciated. The essence of my question concern is related to, as I stated in the email, each summer when we have an opportunity, we close a school and we do some work, but not all the work that I think could be done. And the whole focus is, how do we, capitalize on the opportunity that we have a school, quote unquote, buttoned up, no one going through the school. We're doing, maybe we're doing, for example, tile work, but what other work can we do? I think if we look at it from that perspective, we could be saving several dollars in terms of work that needs to be done in those related schools. So that was the essence of my question, to see a plan. I support the extension or delay of seeing that plan and discussion. I would like to understand what the time frame is. You indicated that if we could, in future meetings, how future is future? Is it, how many months away are we talking about?
Well, I think I can have a good comprehensive plan by our next month's meeting, which is, I guess, first week in September. Is that, will the next land use meeting, I'll be better prepared to give you, a plan.
Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
I actually have a question for you, Bill. Because I have seen, I have gone into a school because I needed to, where a part of the building was being remediated. So, because of, it was floor tiles, right? It was when I was working at Ponus, and I had to go in the summertime, and I couldn't get near that part of the building. It's completely closed off. So I guess my question would be, when you are working on the floor tiles and that part, like typically how much of the building is closed when they're
Okay,
doing remediation, and can other work be done at that time?
okay, it's a good question. The first thing we do is we have to notify the state that we're doing it. We have to send them a letter 10 days prior to, and that letter must say that all those under the age of 18 are not permitted to enter the school. So all adults can enter the school, but no one enters the affected work area. No one, unless you're suited up and qualified and licensed. That doesn't mean at the other end of the school, you can't do some renovation or cleaning or whatnot that's going on. And then we're required to post signage that asbestos is being removed. So in the areas of where it's being removed, that can be the only function that takes place at that time. It is done in what they call compartmentation. In other words, there's a containment in 3 classrooms. And then they do all the abatement, they break that down, that containment, move to the next 3 classrooms, or it could be 4 or 5. Once they turn over the first 3 classrooms, you can enter there, but you can't enter anywhere where there's a compartment, asbestos management or asbestos abatement actually in progress. So people get the opinion that I can't enter the school, when in fact, and all those over the age of 18 can enter the school, and that's just the state regulation.
Okay, thanks. That's really helpful. And so then say they've done the 3 classrooms and then they've moved on. Those 3 classrooms are open while they're abating another section. So could other work be done at that time in those 3 classrooms?
Well,
say there's a plumbing issue or, problem with the windows or, whatever it would happen to be.
in this scenario, no, because what I have is the floor tiles being removed. Now I'm preparing to replace it with new floor tile.
Okay.
So now the new tile is going in and nobody can enter because that work's going on. So I'm kind of balancing 2 trays at the same time.
Okay, that's helpful. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Bill? Okay, now we will move on to new business under building management. 1, review sole source designation for the following building equipment servicing companies and refer recommendation to the Common Council for action. A, approve Automated Building Systems, Inc. and authorized service representatives for Allerton Control Systems as sole source vendor to service Allerton equipment. This approval shall expire July 1, 2027. And B, approve Dakin Applied Americas, Inc., an authorized service representative as sole source vendor to service the City Hall chillers. This approval shall expire July 1, 2027. Will someone move that, please? Mr. Burnett, thank you very much. Who am I
Neil?
turning this over to? Neil?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the first item was Automated Building Service Systems. They're the sole provider in the area for the state of Connecticut to service that system. We have a couple different, we have 2 different vendors, or actually 3 different vendors, but for the Allerton system, they're the primary and only vendor in the state of Connecticut. And if I go on to Dakin, they service our chiller, which is a McQuay chiller for City Hall. McQuay used to do all the servicing. They were bought out by Dakin, and now Dakin is the service maintenance rep for the area and our sole source for that service.
I recall we approving Allerton a couple years ago, right? So we've been
Yes.
using them for a while, 3
3
years
years
ago?
ago.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay, we've been, and we're satisfied.
we are.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, pretty important part of the system is those.
Very
chillers.
important.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I will call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to item 2, which is a discussion on building management's municipal buildings capital improvement evaluation process. You know, this is something that came up in discussion through our capital budget process. And so Alan has lots of information to give us. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Alan.
Yeah, I think tonight I asked Neil to join our meeting today to discuss this question that the council has regarding the building management's maintenance operation procedures and practice, as well as more importantly, the capital side. How do we come up with the capital budget item, and what is the strategy and plan that we have or don't have? It's I think first of all, I think my first important point is that the city on the building management side, the building management is managed a number of buildings, and Neil's going to go into that a little more. And the city, for building management purposes, we actually contract out to Guardian Services, which Neil is an employee of, and we hire a professional facility management company to do this for the city. So it's a contracted service. So they are a specialist in building maintenance and repair and capital improvement. So they are a professional firm with the right staffing that they provide us to manage a facility. So it is very different from, a lot of cities doesn't do this. In fact, most cities don't hire outside professional firm to manage this. So, but I think we started this back in 1997 to create this division that's outside contracted service. So with that, I think Neil, if you can go through what buildings we currently manage and the maintenance and management side, and then more importantly, go through the capital side, how we do projections, how we come up with capital budget requests for every year, and you know, how do we look forward on in terms of funding these projects. You muted.
Okay, there we go. So I was saying we currently manage 15 of the municipal buildings, City Hall, Health Department, the Historical Museum, Station 2 Firehouse, Police Department, Roosevelt Center, Ben Franklin Center, Ely Center, Nathaniel Ely Center, DPW, Animal Control, the Mill Hill buildings, the historic buildings, Main Library, South Norwalk Library, 3 Belden, and as of right now, and 98 South Main Street. So, you know, our goal in all of these is to manage, to operate, to maintain, and we're trying to always maximize our energy efficiency, extend the life of the asset, while maintaining a safe environment for the public as well as the people that work in these buildings. Our team, and going into the capital side, our team typically every September we set out as a team and we visit each one of these buildings. We have a 5-year plan and it extends beyond the 5 years, but for the 5-year plan, we go out and we meet at each building. We start at the top of the building, the roof. We look at the facade, the windows, the mechanical systems, electrical systems, plumbing, etc. We walk through and we kind of make a list of where we're at currently, life of each product, whether it's windows, whether it's the roof, and we make notes as a team. All of us have different disciplines, so that's helpful. And then we take that and along with we meet with the senior team at each building. We get their take on capital needs. We also meet with them on any operational needs, any deficiencies that they find, and that also helps us on the operational side. As well as that, besides just the 5-year plan, so you understand our day-to-day operations, on a weekly basis, our team visits each building, walks each building. We have insight to each building off our BMS system. That's something we can tie into any building, look at any building 24/7. Typically, we do a virtual tour of every building every single morning. So we're able to see if there's any deficiencies, any anomalies out there that we can pick up. And then we address those hopefully before the end user gets to us and says, hey, there's a problem. And that it's done relatively early before people get in, so any operational issues can be addressed. We also manage the day-to-day security, fire, life safety for all the buildings. That goes from emergency lighting, fire extinguisher, generation, backup generation for each building. We also have a computer management maintenance system. That's a work order system. So when somebody calls from an office, we're able to enter that ticket. It automatically goes out to our staff. It's assigned to our staff. We also track our work orders. We also do preventive maintenance as part of that same program. We have an ongoing maintenance program, and those work orders are handed out on a weekly basis, monthly basis, annual basis, to do all the inspections, change the filters, change the belts, make sure all the equipment's running efficiently throughout all our facilities. I don't know if anybody has any questions. There's also, besides us, we also have subcontractors that work for us that assist us. Water treatment for the buildings, and I bring up water treatment as it relates to cooling towers. I don't know if you probably read in the news, Legionnaires is an issue in buildings with cooling towers. That's something that we test annually. We maintain the chemical systems, water treatment to these systems. We're very adamant about that. All our fuel that comes into the building, that's tested to make sure that we're not getting any growth in the fuel or any moisture in the fuel. All these things are key to keeping the building operational without any issues. I don't know if there's any questions that you may have or further insight that I can give you.
Yeah, so I have a question then. So how does taking, all of your, you've got daily analysis, weekly analysis, annual analysis of what the needs are. So then how does that transpose into, into what the asks will be in the capital budget? And I know, Alan, you and I have spoken about this. I know that, you project out at 5 years to 7 years on what your asks are going to be. So what is the in between there, the transition to that process?
The transition. So obviously each building, we earmark the age of every product in that building. For instance, like a roof typically has a 25-year life on it. Some may have more, some may have less, but we have that all cataloged, so we can place that out appropriately. That's the same thing with air conditioning. We've been very fortunate where we're able to extend the life of a lot of the products, but we know we can only push it so far. But we typically get it on the capital plan when we think it's due, and sometimes we're able to push it out a year, 2, 3 years, if possible. And that goes the same thing with windows, as part of our weekly, daily, monthly inspections. If we see failure of windows, increase in leaks, that's something we put on our 5-year plan, or sometimes we'll push out a little bit further, if we can. And the same, that rolls all the way down from our plumbing systems, our heating systems. We know the age of all the products that are out there, so we're able to manage that accordingly. That's all logged in our maintenance system. So we're able to pull that up at our fingertips to see what has to be done, when it has to be done. And again, we're always pushing to make that a longer process in its life, right? I mean, if we can, so we've really been successful on HVAC systems, where we're able to either rebuild in some cases, make major repairs where we don't have to actually replace the entire system.
I just want to add, I'm sorry, I just want to add a couple of things. I think something we should look at is like City Hall. City Hall was renovated in 1986. So for about 6-7 years ago, we recognize the system is somewhat like 20+ years old, and air conditioning heating systems. So we start looking at it. They basically there's 5 air handlers in the building, and they need to be replaced or modified. Some of them you can actually somewhat salvage, you can replace component, but most of the time you put the complete replacement. Recognizing that you can't just take something out of circulation because the building needs to function, and there's this full-time operation of the building. Well, we actually developed a strategy, and also the cost of it is substantial. I mean, it goes to millions of dollars. So what we did, we developed a phase improvement. We look at each piece of equipment differently to see whether a piece of equipment is actually can be reconditioned, that give you another 20-year life, or something that we need to replace. So we took us about 4 years to do the replacement, roughly. But we, again, we weren't going to ask for $1.5 million, whatever it may be, kind of thing. We actually for like $200,000, $400,000, whatever at a time, kind of thing. So that financially, it's a very responsible approach, and so just asking money, but we can't do everything 1 year anyway, because you can't take all the units offline. So for City Hall, we took, I think, about 3 to 4 years by the time we start asking for money to actually complete the replacement air handlers. And when we do this stuff, every piece of equipment we replace, we recognize the energy efficiency of the unit, or we meet the highest in terms of energy conservation in terms of equipment we purchase. I mean, nowadays you can't really buy not energy efficient equipment anymore. And also the design team, when they replace unit, if they opportunity to add more equipment that can potentially be energy savings, that we will incorporate those into the project. We also go after incentives. When we replace this equipment, we supply to Eversource, submit it to Eversource for incentive money or rebate, depending on what situation it is. So we are fully engaged with the energy side in terms of financial rebates. Unlike City Hall, police headquarters built in 2005, their equipment needed replacement a little earlier than City Hall. I think partially because we call it a 24/7 building. All buildings are 24/7, even though nobody's building is still run, but we run on more a passive mode. But police station, because of the uniqueness of the the holding cell and the dispatch center and stuff, those equipment runs much more heavier and more constantly. So we've been replacing equipment last 2 years, I believe. So we are very familiar with the equipment of each building. We know the life of them. Most of the time the council doesn't see it because all you see is the 5-year plan. But news office track all the equipment for the full life of all the equipment. So there is there's no like written plan in front of us. Maybe Neil has one, but bottom line is that we do track all of these equipment. We are very familiar with equipment, how they're working. And like police department, I mean, typically air conditioning probably gets you about 25 years of use. But at the same time, we know that failure rates and troubles that with a specific equipment, then we start looking for replacement even before the normal retirement life of a piece of equipment. So we are very familiar which equipment doing. So thank you.
Yeah, so the police department is a great example of accelerated life. I think we were tracking out there around 17 17 years on some of the equipment. And in some cases, we were lucky to get there. We were getting to where we're breaking down more often. There was a lack of consistency in operation. But all the rooftop units over there were replaced, heating and cooling side. So we've been pretty successful. One other thing I want, we talked about energy. We track all our energy. We're able to, on a monthly basis, we track all our utilities for each building. We're able to break down by the day, break down by the month, break down by the year. So every month we all get eyes set on a report. We look at it to see how we're doing, right? That's important to us. We want to make sure if we're higher for 1 month or we're coming over year higher, we want to know why, right? Because we do put a lot of effort into energy conservation. We're currently looking to do retrofitting of all the light fixtures, City Hall and Health Department, and a couple of our other buildings to keep that in line, right? And again, like Alan said, we're always looking for incentives. We just did the EV charging stations at City Hall. Again, we received incentives from Eversource on both the services we put in. Again, we try to implement systems that are easy for us to view. Really a report that hits our desk every month that we're able to look at and quickly pick up on any anomalies, any issues. Did something break? And it happens. Sometimes you get a water break or a cooling tower, a valve sticks open and you don't know about it. At least you can get it in a timely manner versus some buildings can go months without recognizing an issue. In most cases, between our building management system, our energy systems, we're able to pick up on it pretty fast, pretty quick.
And just one last thing, I'm sorry, Jim. Lastly is that I would say 6 to 7 months ago, Dan Miller from News office, who's our chief engineer, actually came to Land Use and Building Management Committee and did a presentation on current and past energy project working on, and also he gave a presentation on how we track energy users and that there was a number of graphs and stuff that he presented. So that information is still available. I mean, we can also put it out if anybody has any question, and we can talk about another time kind of thing. But yeah, there's a whole kind of a behind the scenes strategy that we do. It's not like a plan that we put on a shelf and spend $20,000 to a plan and put on a shelf. It's really kind of an active way of managing our energy use and consumptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fryer.
So I'll put this to Neil. This sounds like a capital needs assessment in very detailed manner. So you may have 15 of those capital need assessments for each one of those buildings. And then an overall that'll tell us what the overall needs are. The energy usage, it sounds like something it's kind of separate. So is that automated? Do you have a spreadsheet of that you can look at and anybody can look at and say, that in year 2 that you're going to need this, year 10 you're going to need this, year 15 you're going to need something else, right?
For the most part, most of the products we're very familiar with. Again, a roof typically we're shooting for 25 years. And look at our base. So no, we don't have anything automated as far as that goes. We kind of use the 5-year plan as our guide every year, right? And we shift if we think something can help hold out another year or two. We're looking always to push it out another year or two. And sometimes stuff comes up unexpectedly. Something happens that we didn't expect, and we have to potentially bring it up, right? So it's a little bit of a juggling act every year.
Well, I can see a tactical plan that would be 2, 3, 4 years. But I would think that you'd have a strategic view of this whole process, that a building is going to have a 25-year life. And within that building, you're going to have a boiler that's going to last for 20 years. And you may have something else that will only last 5 years. But as you move along, that 5-year tactical plan keeps on moving along with it.
That's
and
correct.
You really know what you should know. And believe me, I know there's gonna be anomalies, there's gonna be exceptions that are gonna come along.
Right.
But you should be able to take a look at that strategic plan and say, hey, this is a pretty good idea what my capital needs are gonna be for next year. This is the pretty good idea what I'm gonna have for the year 3 and 4, and however long that you wanna go out. But, and when I say automated, I don't mean that you should have some kind of software that's gonna automatically calculate this. But I would think that maybe you have some kind of a spreadsheet that outlines all of this stuff so that when you win the lottery and go away, that the next guy that comes in is going to know exactly how to do this and where we stand.
Yeah,
So
so we do,
documentation back
we do have the 5-year plan, but we also have outside of that, right? The 5-year plan is what everybody gets to see pretty much. But we do have for every building, we know when product was put in for each building. We know the published life cycles for each part of that building. So yes, we do have a plan in place that we
I think it would be really interesting to see that strategic plan looks like.
Sure.
Because that gives us some idea of what the total cost is going to be as we go out, not only 3 years, but 25 years.
Right. Yeah, we can
And
share
we-
something with
Yeah,
you.
we know that we need a new boilers in 20 years, and that's going to be a big item. So,
Yeah,
and I don't think we have to, I'm not putting any pressure on you,
No,
but at some point in time, I'd love to see what that looks like.
that's not a problem whatsoever.
Okay.
I just want to note one thing. I think this question came up recently. I mean, my understanding the council member potentially change every 2 years and stuff, and there's all new member on the council kind of thing. So I think once in a while for us to come to the committee and talk about this stuff, so give new members some ideas of what building management is about. But I think what triggered some of these questions recently is about Westport Avenue Fire Station, the condition of that building and all. Neil mentioned all the buildings that we are managing right now. Because it's always been my position that I don't go out and try to get buildings. That's not my goal. It's not making this department bigger is better kind of thing. We just want to do what we do. But regardless of what I just said, what happened is that there's certain buildings that we are not in charge of. We only out of the 5 buildings or 6 buildings the fire department has, we are only involved in the fire headquarters. So like Westport Avenue Fire Station plus the other fire station, we have no involvement in the operation and maintenance of those facilities. So I understand that this question came up in the past. At some point in the past, the city building management wasn't involved in the management of health department also. So when health department comes in to wants a new roof, it's put the council in a funny spot because you don't know compared to other building where that building needs a new roof compared to the other building. So it's a little bit of a challenge when it comes to capital budget cycle. When the department, when a building that's not managed by building management, how does the council decide whether that needs is actually needed compared to the rest of the building within the system? So I think that came up a little bit when during the past capital budget cycle about Westport Avenue Fire Station, the condition as well as the improvement, whether those improvements are needed and when do we need them and why is it the condition it is at that point kind of thing. So I think that's something we can talk about another time, but I just want to let you know that I think these questions came up and this the need for us to come to this meeting tonight to talk about some of this and what we do is a little bit generated by the Westport Avenue Fire Station question that came up during the capital budget process. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Alan, because I think you're absolutely right. Just not knowing what the condition of that building was, makes it difficult. And I think when it came to light, it did bring up a lot of questions. And, I was told at some point there was someone, a firefighter or someone who was employed by the fire department who had experience with building management of some sort. And so that's why those stations are managed by the fire department itself. It is an odd anomaly. And I think that that is why, you know, it got to the point where, you know, we're like looking at this, the conditions. And I know that you have been involved and you've gotten in there and really made some great improvements. And I'm sure the firefighters are really pleased about that. But it is odd. And I don't know that, you know, I don't think that anyone is saying, well, you know, you need to take over these buildings. I know that your department really has more on its plate than you can manage, I think. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at for the future. You know, like you said, it's not the time to talk about it, but I do think it's important we just acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I think the degree of involvement too. I mean, the past building manager did not maintain that did not have any responsibility over the two library. But through the years, there's a need on the infrastructure side, the building structure and mechanical system. At some point in past, I would say about 6 years ago, building manager becomes involved in the infrastructure of the building. We do that, but we do not provide janitorial services to that building because they have their own janitorial staff. So again, when there's question come on any of this building, on historic building, I think we just took over about a year and a half ago, right? Something like that. Again, we had no involvement in historic building and things like that. So it's you know, it's interesting. Again, when we say we're managing a building, we do not all building we provide full service. So it's kind of interesting thing, but I think there's certain balance in life that, you know, there's certain building, certain department, even in fire headquarters, we are involved in the building infrastructure, mechanical system and building envelope and everything else, but we only provide janitorial services for the fire headquarters office portion, which is the 3rd floor, and that's it. So again, it's nothing right or wrong. It's just how it's set up. I mean, we look at these and we look at feasibility of is it worth it for us to do something or whatever. So they have discussions separately about each building and how much we get involved and how much what we don't get involved in. So it's kind of interesting, but it's a very detailed level. So okay.
Okay, thanks. And then I just want to, you know, just kind of expand on some of Councilmember Freier's questions and just to clarify, Neil. So, you know, because I think, you know, I think we want to know that, you know, there is a matrix, right? There is something like on your computer, your program, whatever it happens to be that, you know, again, if you were to win the lotto or retire or whatever, that, you know, anyone else on your staff is able to go in and know exactly what is a plan 3 years out, 5 years out, you know, for things that need to be replaced. So if you could just address that with a little more detail, that'd be great.
So what we do for each building, we kind of have a we'll call it a cheat sheet for each building. When a roof was installed, when windows were installed, when the boilers were replaced, with all these dates, right? And we know what all the published dates are for life cycles for this equipment and for the roofs and stuff of that nature. So it's really it's a small sheet, but it packs a lot of information for us, and that helps us formulate not only the 5 years but the 10-year plan, right? And that's something we can share with everybody to show you what we have out there and what we have in the future years.
Yeah, I think that'd be great because we don't want to have the impression that you're just out there with a clipboard and you know what I mean?
No,
it's all in one place and
absolutely
accessible to the professionals who are working in these buildings.
Okay. Yeah, one of the building I never really talk about. I think one big challenge we have is actually DPW building. The DPW building is basically we call it Butler building. It's basically a tin can, a metal building. That's a Butler building. It's not designed for like 35-year life. I think typically, traditionally, when one of these buildings are put up, it's basically a metal building with a sheet metal cover and no insulation. If there is minimum, I mean, it's probably like 2 inches of insulation kind of thing. And it's wide open because of public department use in the wintertime. Energy efficiency is 0 to none kind of thing. But also the building, again, is not designed for that purpose, to last for 30 years, 40 years kind of. I think it's built in 1980s maybe. That's when we bought it over from a company that used to crush rocks over there. I think it was. Anyway, so I think I think that's one building we gotta look at it a little more detail, because me and Neil talked about it, I think about a year ago. It's a substantial cost to rebuild a building over there. Because structurally, the ground, it settles, everything has to be in piles. But that building, there's definitely life to it that, I mean, a typical brick building, exterior building, structurally for typical building, foundation and steel construction, it never goes bad, right? Only thing that goes up is the brick veneer, that like gets you 60 to 80-year life. So the shell of the building generally is fine. City Hall is built in the 1930s, right? So, but at the same time, this building doesn't have that type of life in it. And I think the cost of renovating and putting a new building is substantial. So that's something we should look at in the long-term plan. Because me and him, when I look at it, every time I look at it, I say the cost of this is major. And so, and we try to continue to maintain it, slap a new roof on or fix this and that. But at some point, that's a building that we need to be a little more focused on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that building's to just piggyback off that, those buildings over there, the location doesn't help it, right? You have the seawater, right? You have the waste plant over there. We're handling salt product over there, so we have the salt shed, right? There's a lot of heavy equipment has the corrosive salt. Again, those buildings are really tin, and they interact with the salts, and you'll see at the lower levels of these buildings, they start to slowly corrode away. So it's true. It's one of those buildings that will be in short term. I say short term, over the next 10 years, look at doing some major work.
Yeah, I get that. Mr. Fryer?
Yeah, okay, I think, every time we go into this thing and peel back the onion a little bit, there's another, well, this Butler building is kind of an exception. So I think really, the more I hear you guys talk about it, I really would like to see what what your strategic plan looks like, what the tactical plan is, what the capital needs assessment really is. So that's all I have to say. And I
Sounds
think
good.
you guys, I'm not questioning what you're doing, you get it done,
Yep.
and you do a great job on it. It's just, I think from a look forward position, when you win the lottery, Neil, who's gonna
Wow.
step in,
Say that one more time. I'm clicking my
Yeah,
heels
I keep
together.
saying it, and if you do win, you've got to split it with me, okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
No, I absolutely understand the concern, and by all means, we'll share something with you.
yeah, that'd be great, thanks.
Jim, just wanted to on a funny side. You said, win the lottery. Tom Livingston used to tell me that what happened, you got run over by a bus.
See, that I'm trying to, this is the more, this
Much
is
more
the gentler,
positive.
the gentler, nicer Jim Freya,
Yeah,
okay?
nicer way to putting it than Tom had.
Yeah. I just
Thank you.
saved your life, Neil.
Well, we'll have to tell Tom we were talking about him. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else before we move on? Okay, thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you. Have a great
Alan, of
evening.
course. Yeah, okay.
Bye
All
now.
right, so moving on to B, Board of Education, item 1 is school construction project update.
Yeah, I think we have Dan to present 2 projects, which is South Norwalk and also Norwalk High School. One thing we are not going to talk about is Cranberry School, because that pretty much is over. We are doing final closeout and stuff, so not much to talk about. Everything is pretty much done, and we're moving on. But Dan, if you can go for those 2 projects, I think Joanne's going to talk about, I think it's 3 projects. One, it's 90th South Main Street a little bit, where we are into the bidding process and stuff. One is Gallagher Mansion. We are about to go out to bid also, or we actually went out, might have been. And the last one is actually the HVAC project for school construction. Okay, Dan, if you can go first. Or should be ladies first, but next time. Dan, you mute.
Hi, sorry about that. Currently watching 2 children, and someone had to use the potty, so the precedent.
Do you want me to go first,
Do
Dan?
what we gotta do. Do what you gotta
I'll
do.
jump in. I think I have a free moment that they're doing what they're doing, so let me share my screen and I'll give a brief update. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
So jumping to Cranberry Elementary School, not much to report here. We're nearing project completion and closeout. I believe the final invoice for the project was received and is under review right now. We're turning over the closeout materials, and all of the scope has been completed at this point. The last time I think I spoke, we had completed all of the punch list items. So we're hopefully closing this project out by next meeting or the one after that, and there won't be any more updates on it. Jumping to the South Norwalk Elementary School. If you've had a chance to drive by the site, there's a lot of activity down there now. I apologize, let me share my. Building foundations.
I'm sorry, Greg, did you have a comment or question about Cranberry?
Yes, I did.
right.
My eyes immediately jumped to the free balance column, and I saw the $1.4 million. Are we under budget once again?
Yes.
Very good. That's
I think,
excellent.
I think
Great
maybe
job.
even more. I think the latest number is actually more than that.
Excellent.
So we will provide another update when we close out all the financial accounting side. And I think that number is going to go even higher. So
Good news.
Okay, just wanted to point that out. I wanted to make sure I was reading the chart correctly.
that goes to the annual retirement fund. You know that, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was checking.
Okay, so back to the South Norwalk school update. Site development cut and fill is ongoing. We're still building up the parking lot area with imported fill, and that will stretch over into the properties that are being purchased as well. And we'll talk about those in a moment. Building foundations are complete. Under slab utilities are nearing completion within the building footprint. They completed, once we get to the photos, this part will make a little more sense. They've completed it on one half of the building. They're wrapping that up on the second half of the building. After that, they prep the slab with reinforcement and a vapor barrier, and they're planning to pour concrete on the first half of the building, which we're calling Building B, by mid-August. Weather permitting, that should be done by the end of this week, but can't control the weather. Building A area slab prep and concrete placement will follow. So assuming we get that first half of the building placed this week, by next Thursday, Friday, we'll be pouring the second half of the building's slab on grade. Steel erection will follow in late August. So steel will be delivered just before that, and we'll start standing up columns and erecting the building by the end of the month. In other news, the city is still in the process of purchasing 5 properties along Oxford and the Meadow Street Extension corner. I believe at this point, Alan could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 3 of the 5 properties on Oxford have been closed on. There's plans to close on the 4th. And by the end of the month or very beginning of next month. And we just met before this with planning and zoning. We applied for a amendment to our special permit approval, and there were no objections to that. So no issues with expanding our construction limits and incorporating those properties that are being purchased.
Just for, I think when we talk about acquisition of those property, 1, 2, 3, there's 4 houses among all those among those property on Oxford Street. We have possession of 3 of the houses, and there's probably 1, 2, 3, probably around 9 families in them. We have worked with them and provided relocation costs and assisted them in finding their location. 2 of the houses are empty already, and we started to do an environmental assessment on those buildings in terms of identify all the asbestos and lead, whatever it is in the building, in preparation of demolition, which is required. The third one, it's there used to be, I think, 3 families in there. and 2 of them has been moved out already. The last one is scheduled to move out this weekend. So we will have the 3rd building also. That's those 3 buildings basically is the area that we're going to be putting the new basketball court. The one that, as some of you know, we are the Meadow Street, the basketball court in Meadow Street is being, like a better word, eliminated. So this would be the new home for that basketball court. So we are from a relocation of resident perspective, be able to do this in about 2 months from time closing. It's a very efficient and a cooperative process between the tenant and the city. And I think I just wanted to give a shout out to Health Department, Bill Mooney's office, who help us to work with the resident to help them find places, to also arrange payment to them, to help them for down payment deposit and stuff like that. So the whole process worked out really well, and I'm very pleased about how we can help relocate families and residents in a timely fashion, and all of them without a lot of major issues, or even minor issues. I mean, everything worked out really well. So here's a picture of the current site. This looks a little older, huh?
Can I just interrupt a sec, Alan? First of all, thank you for that update, because it really is important for us to know, to hear that, the families have found homes, and the city has done everything you could to make that a less difficult process for them. So I appreciate you giving that update. I have a question, because it's been several months now that we provided we had to approve the extension for the negotiations on the railroad spur line on the
Yes.
along the other side. Yeah. So how are we doing with that? You have an update?
Yes, the negotiation is being handled by the law department, by Darren. But we have made another offer to them, and I think we are down to almost the final counter offer between both parties. To the extent possible, I think we are looking. I mean, I assume they are and we are trying to make a deal. So I think there's a deal to be made. We made they made counter offer. We made our counter. At some point, this is going to get to a very narrow margin of like what both sides are willing to accept, kind of thing. So we're getting very much there. So the property owner, it's actually away from vacation. That's what we're waiting to hear back from him when he gets back. And so we're very close. And I think we need to be very close. The reason being is that with the construction, we are actually bringing utility to that portion of the property to make the connection to South Main Street. So we need to finish this deal and make it work for both parties. So I'm hopeful that will be done within 3 weeks.
Good. I mean, and that's a really, not that all of these properties weren't important, but this one's really important, for that side access into the.
Yeah, side access and also potential future, because we are not acquiring that property for school purposes. We're acquiring for intersection improvement, right-of-way improvements. So, I mean, with traffic mobility, they need to design and start looking at widening the roadway and intersection changes. This property is critical to them. So yeah. Again, I'm hopeful that within 2 to 3 weeks this deal would be made, and then and we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, so just to explain the photo a little more, this photo was taken on August 8th. To the left here is looking down from up on the hill. This is the building B area. You can see they're making their way across with the wire mesh and reinforcing. The vapor barriers down. And then you see over on the right side is building A. There's still some trenching going on. They're completing the underslab utilities, and they will, once that's complete, they'll do the same thing they just did on the other side and prepare for the next slab on grade pour. Here's just a peek at one of the more cluttered areas, but this is at the utility rooms near the loading dock area. Some of the work that goes into the under slab coordination and those utilities that are in place before we pour those slabs. We've been talking to the design team and wanted to share just a couple of renderings. One of the comments we've received is adding some color, making this a fun building without really going back to the drawing board. And one of the ideas was these aren't final colors, but just a rendering with some ideas of using the columns, making them colorful, taking the standard bollards, adding color. It's hard to see in this rendering, but the benches have some color mixed in with them in the background. We jump to the next photo. That was the main entrance, and this is further to the right at the front of the building. This is the cafeteria entrance. Just a continuation of those bollards, some color in the bike racks to add a little fun.
I think this is generated from the conversation, Barbara, if you remember, when you and Nicole, and I think possibly with Councilwoman Young also, that we're sitting down and looking at the building facade. It's a brick building kind of thing, but same time it's adding some colors and additional light for us, which it's desirable from a school perspective. So these are some of the elements that we try to create some fun to the building. And the back has this playground, which is multicolored, as well as some color in the back of the building. So I think this adds a little more to the facade of the building and for the children's interests.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. And then Norwalk High School, a much larger project. So we've been continuing with the cut and fill under the building footprint, which is substantially complete at this point. We still are exporting material from the site, and that will continue until fall. There's different types of soil being removed, whether it's clean, polluted, or contaminated as we disturb different areas. Rammed aggregate pier installation that we've talked about on previous meetings is still ongoing, and that will continue through mid-August, so that they should be out of here by the end of the month. Concrete foundation footing installation started the first week of August. We have a photo to share with you showing that progress, and the stormwater detention system is in progress as well. I'll jump to here's a drone photo of the site. Over to the left here, this is our stormwater detention system, one of several that are going in on the site. Over on the right side, right over here is where we'll see the beginning of the foundation work in another photo. There's our King Street entrance, and this is obviously the existing Norwalk High School.
I just want to note, I know that we say King Street entrance, that's really a temporary construction entrance. There will not be an entrance from King Street in the future. It's just a temporary construction entrance. And during the school year, that the construction access only limited to after Nanaimo School opening. So that the construction vehicle doesn't crosses the kids and parents dropping off kids at Nanaimo School. So they are a very specific requirement that they don't use the entrance during pick up and drop off in the morning and afternoon.
Thanks for that clarification. Mr. Burnett has a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. There's been recent reports in the media about the situation in Stanford and West Hill High School, how their costs have ballooned, and they seem, and if I read it correctly, they seem to be caught off guard in terms of the inflated costs to build that school. How confident that we're not going to face that same situation here with Norwalk High? What's our level of comfort that the numbers that we currently have are not going to skyrocket?
Let me answer that. The difference between us and the project is actually very similar. They build a high school on the existing site, so similar to us. I think they're building a new building and tearing down existing kind of thing. The major difference is timing. Our project started already, and everything is contracted. So those numbers are fixed. The only variable here is what we found underground, which is potentially like polluted or contaminated soil or structural issue that we didn't anticipate. Couple of things that we did not do to a level of detail that we would like to do is that when we're doing soil sampling and stuff and testing, we didn't test under the football field because we're artificial turf. So we really didn't want to drill all these holes, and we couldn't drill all these holes in the football field. Meanwhile, you know, when the sports are going on year round kind of thing. The other thing is that the other unknown is actually under the existing building. When we go demolish existing building, what's below this foundation and stuff is another little bit of concern that there's still a risk there, but it's not as substantial because as soon as we get out of the ground, like this picture shows, underground excavation and stuff, that's where we hit unknown conditions kind of thing. So with the building the way it is now, we've gone through all that already. The risk of any unknown condition, which has become change orders and stuff, reduced. And I don't know if you remember when the bids came in, there's certain things we still haven't with those unknown conditions. Also, the other thing we didn't bid out was actually demolition of existing building, because that won't happen till like 3 years from now. So we anticipate that we will, if you look at the budget, Dan, can you go back one page? We anticipate that this project will need an additional about 4% more in terms we're using our contingency to cover some of these costs. So we anticipate that we're going to be short 4% contingency. It's very typical for a project that within 5% a deviation from the budget. It's not unusual kind of thing. Not that we like it or not, but it's just nature of construction bids. So we are very comfortable where we are in terms of overall project costs. But just want to remember, Ray, when we had the conversation that we have to move forward very cautiously, and this is still the same. We didn't hit anything that really surprised us so far. We are really financially, we are managing through. Once we get out of the ground on the building, I think the comfort level will increase. But at the same time that we are, in fact, early this week, me, Jim Giuliano, and I and Dan were sitting down and talk about the timing of requesting the state for additional 4% contingency funds to fully fund this project. So I think we're in a good place. I think the news article came from about Stanford. I think they're like 50% higher or 35% higher. I forgot what it was.
Yes, so a very high number.
Yeah, very high number. I think their budget originally is $302 million or something. They're looking at $460 million or something like that. I don't even know. But it's substantial. I mean, it's those numbers are frightening. It's but at the same time, it's however we did it. It's I think we have a $239 million budget. We have another $6.5 million we have previously, and we're looking for another potential $10 more million from the state to finish this project. So we are overall, I think we're in very good place, relatively speaking, with Stanford. It's not meant to be a criticism of them kind of thing. It just we're not involved with their project, so we don't know all the detail and the reasoning behind everything kind of thing. So, but I think we are holding on a good path to continue to move forward. Again, we're still looking for $10 more million that we're going to apply to the state with probably in 2 years from now. So we're looking at that schedule right now.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I wasn't trying to create a them versus us type scenario, but I was more concerned about what they're going through, that they seem to not be aware of these inflated costs that they're now having to face. And I just want to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve. And if we do see any additional costs coming, that, we know sooner rather than later, so we can try to address the situation and not be surprised. So thank you for the update.
All right, I think there's just, this is the last photo. It's just I've shared this before, but the rammed aggregate pier installation, they auger an opening, they remove the soil, they fill it with stone, and they compact it. And that's ongoing. That's the last photo we have to share this month.
Just again, I know I don't want to tie everybody up, but at the same time, I just want to, as council member, I just want to, regarding this project, we do have a few complaints from neighbors. And generally speaking, just in case you get called from the neighborhood kind of thing, one is very typical is dust and noise kind of thing. Noise is very hard to control. It's just construction, you know, I mean, we're doing construction, there's gonna be noise kind of thing, and then we try to keep it, you know, I think a lot of people complain about usually would be like, you know, the truck backing up, the beep, 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 beep noise in the early morning kind of thing. We really do annoy people. But again, dust, so we have the contractor, Gubane, actually has a person dedicated to do clean King Street, a sweeper to clean King Street, as well as watering watering the site so that we keep the dust down. So we are taking effort to manage those conditions. But dust is a little more manageable, but noise is hard. The other thing is when we do these construction, vibration is a little bit of a problem for the immediate residents. You know, it's we don't think it's damaging the building, but you know, when you go for a vibrating roller that goes by when we compact the subgrade, that vibration can be felt in the houses. So it is not a pleasant situation, but is it damaging the building? We don't think so. We actually monitor like sensors out there to monitor the degree of vibration so that within the limit kind of thing. So we are aware of it. We every time they call us, we respond to them, we talk to them and understand why, and to the extent we can mitigate or reduce it, we're making every effort to do that. But again, there's potential that some neighbor will reach out to councilman and talk about it. So if you hear anything, you're welcome to reach out to Dan or myself, mostly Dan. You know, if you good news, call me. If you have a complaint, call Dan. But anyway, so yeah, reach out to Dan and we'll follow up with it. And I mean, to the extent that we can be accommodating, we will. I think it's very critical for us to work with the neighbor. After all, they are taxpayers. At the same time, it's that we do have a schedule to meet. The city has a right to do construction. I don't mean it to be rude or anything, but yet, you know, we try not to work on after hours and all these other things, but at the same time, you know, when we have to put a foundation in the ground, and there's going to be noise, there's going to be some vibration. So it's finding the balance, working together is the only solution that we have. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, anyone have any other questions? All right, great. Go take care of your kids, Dan. I heard that little daddy.
Yeah, he was sitting on my lap. He fell off the couch while we were in between slides, so we got
Thank you
through
so
it.
much.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's move on now to item 2.
Joanne, I'm sorry, Joanne, can you go through this real quickly on 90 South Main Street and
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sure. We have 3 different projects going on with the city. So Gallagher Mansion and Cranberry Park. We are doing some renovations within the mansion, and we worked a long time to actually develop the scope and see what we can do there. So I think we're going to be able to do a new septic, which is great, and possibly indoor air conditioning on the first floor. So we're hopeful to do some of those things, as well as really enhance the warming kitchen was the main reason why we wanted to do this in the first place. But in addition to that, the garage, that's more on the Cranberry Park side, that Rex and Park use for all of their machinery, that's going to actually be demolished because it's very old and it's falling down. So we are rebuilding that in the same exact footprint. So that's being done there. And then there is the Norwalk Community Recreation Center, which
Joanne, let me interrupt you for a second. Gallagher project is $5 million. It's all state monies.
yes.
Yeah,
And,
can I just ask, so Recreation and Parks vehicles will go back into that
yes.
building, and where will they go while the work's being done? they have a place for them? Do you know?
That's a great
But-
question. I don't know where.
It's a question for them,
Yeah,
so if you
wherever
don't
Ken
know, it's
wants
okay.
to put them, yes. Oh, and by the way, that did go out to bid, and we actually have a bid opening next week. So, we'll have all of, those contracts to actually, be approved, and we possibly might need a special meeting, in September. So.
Keep us posted. Okay.
Yes, I will keep you posted. And so the rec center, we are just still finalizing the exterior facade of the gym and the back part of the building. We pretty much almost have the front done, and so we're just tweaking that. And we actually just went to P&Z right before this to talk about the addition, the gym addition that does encroach a bit in the floodplain. So we're just working out all of those details and making sure that we meet the requirements before we get a permit. So the inside though is been developed quite a bit to the point where we are going to hopefully go out, well, we will be going out to bid before the end of the year because we'll be using ARPA funds, and so those have to be designated before the end of 2024. So moving quickly on that.
Can I
yeah.
ask, is it possible for our next meeting to get the see the updated plans? Because, we knew, we've talked about this in the committee, so I just want to make, but just as a reminder that the original design came in way over budget. And so there was some tweaking that needed to be done to get us, reduce the budget a bit. And so there were some changes to the design. And so if we could just get an update in the next meeting, where
Yes, absolutely, because by then we have to have the back all finished as well. So that will be a good timing for that.
Thanks.
No problem. And then lastly, Barbara's going to have to read many items coming up here on the the HVAC projects. As you all know, that we were awarded all 6 that we applied for and went through a strenuous grant process. So we are going to assign those 6 different projects to 2 different companies, which we'll talk more afterwards if you want to. But that is a 2-year commitment. It's quite a long time. And the reason, I'm sure Ellen has more comments on the reason why we need a person, but between Ellen and I, it's going to be quite an extensive project that the school also has to be a little bit involved in working with the engineers and as Greg mentioned, the summers and abatement, and it's quite extensive. So we just needed some work and help with that, as well as we did put that as part of our projected budget. So that was all approved by the state as well. Is that it? Any questions on any of those?
Well, we'll hold off on the HVAC until I read them and we move the items so we can talk more extensively about it. So,
okay.
Anybody have any questions on the other things? No. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Okay.
Okay. So, I'm Mr. Burnett. You're gonna be my checker here. Make sure that I ask for a motion. Somebody to move these after I read them. So I got a lot to read just in case I forget. Okay. Item 2. Under Board of Education, review proposals for program management services for the 6 school HVAC improvement projects and refer the following to the Common Council for approval. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Construction Solutions Group, LLC, to provide program management services for the Brian McMahon High School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for 28 months for a total not to exceed $159,865.45, plus $7,993.27 for reimbursable and $10,000 allowance for additional services, account number noted. B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Construction Solutions Group LLC to provide program management services for the Brookside Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for 28 months for a total not to exceed $64,068.14 plus $3,203.41 for reimbursable and $10,000 allowance for additional services, account number noted. C, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Construction Solutions Group LLC to provide program management services for the Marvin Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for 28 months for a total not to exceed $79,433.31 plus $3,971.67 for reimbursable and $10,000 allowance for additional services, account number noted. D, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Construction Solutions, Inc. LLC to provide program management services for the Silvermine Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project noted, for 28 months for a total not to exceed $58,258.04 plus $2,912.90 for reimbursable and $10,000 allowance for additional services, account number noted. C, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Construction Solutions Group LLC to provide program management services for the Rowayton Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for 28 months for a total not to exceed $205,237.77 plus $10,261.89 for reimbursable and $10,000 allowance for additional services, account number noted. F, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Construction Solutions Group LLC to provide program management services for the Narragansett Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for 28 months for a total not to exceed $124,427.11 plus $6,221.36 for reimbursable and $10,000 allowance for additional services, account number noted. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett, thank you. Okay, so, as Joanne introduced, and we know that, several months back, we approved the application for these grants. Also through the Finance Committee had approved, set aside the appropriations. And so now we have received these grants incredibly from the state, which gives which offers that 60% reimbursement for these projects that all needed to be done. And so what I just read is for the construction services. So I'm going to turn it over to Joanne. Joanne, you're going to give us the details on, or Alan? Who's going to do it?
I can go if she's successful. I think one of the challenges we have is that staffing wise, is really just for the whole building management / construction. Me and her have three responsibility, generally speaking. One is major construction projects, which we all hear about tonight. The other responsibility where Neil is, but I'm in charge of that division, and Neil is the staff person to manage all the building management functions of all the municipal building. The third one is city properties, in terms of leasing, selling, and things like that. The city do not hire full-time staffing typically, because we only just the two of us. So when we do this capital project, we do look outside for professional services to support those instead of hiring full-time person. When these projects are over, what do we do with a full-time person? But when you go hire outside service, it's a professional services that are it's at a cost. It's not lack of better word, it's not cheap. It's we pay for it. But at the same time, is to give us the ability to reduce and increase and reduce staffing as we need to be. These 6 projects, with the approval of these 6 projects, there's no staff to manage them. So even with right now, Knoll High School and then previous Cranberry School and Jefferson School, we do go out and hire a company. We go out RFP and construction solution group submit proposal just like everybody else. And through the years, I think we went out twice already. This is the third time we went out. The state requires to go out for proposed RFP, and then we evaluate these proposals based on pricing and stuff, and select a consultant to do this. And also this is reimbursable by the state because they recognize that community do not, a lot of community, I mean, I think Norwalk's the fifth largest city in the state, but same that a lot of community or this school district doesn't have the staffing to do any of this stuff. So they recognize that. That's why these costs are reimbursable under the grant program. So not that we want to take a taxpayer, I mean, we are taxpayers, but at the same time, is that it's not like trying to take advantage of it. It's just that we just we don't have staff, period, to manage this project. So we go outside, we go RFP, and these are the number that comes in. So I think it's as simple as that. Do we need a full-time person? I think for the next year plus, we do need a full-time 6 project. You know, when you do one project for $35 million, you know, you need a certain amount of staff. We got 6 projects. It's 6 times more. It doesn't make it simpler, you know. But same time, having a full-time person, it gives the ability to sit down, work together, to understand how the city works, the city department, how payment works, what land use does, you know, in terms of approval process, submitting stuff to land use. So all of that becomes, having a full-time person, it's beneficial in terms of coordinating relationships and moving the project within the city government, as well as with the design team. And also, certain project we may be hiring construction manager, or maybe we go for general contract to do the work. So all those are known. It's really work having somebody on staff to deal with all these issues for the next year plus. And after that, depends how much you do the first year. It is possible that we can reduce that staff to a part-time staff person, but it is important to have somebody hands-on to be here to work with Joanna and I, and also Bill Hodel, to go through the building, walk through a building. You know, instead of every time we go visit, look at a building, we got to make an appointment with them, kind of thing. This person would be on site, and you know, and the coordination is much more cohesive overall. So I think it's important that we do have a full-time person. And the cost is RFP'd out, and they are Jim's group, construction solution group, is the you know, lower of the 2 proposals received, and it's not for a year, it's for 28 months. But you know, with construction solution group, as we move forward, if we are able to finish a couple of projects, we will look to reduce that instead of full-time person to a part-time person. So there's flexibility within this relationship. So. And there may be new project come up later on, kind of thing, that we can use the other half a person's time for different projects. So we'll figure all this out as we move forward. So,
Alan, and the state requires that this work be done within. There's a deadline, right? That we have to have.
Yeah,
I think that's part of the reason why
we're transparent. The schedule the state gave us is not rational, kind of thing. I think they gave us to next summer. Is that right, Joanne?
End of next year.
End of next year. The problem is that right now we go RFP, right, for the engineers and the construction program manager. So we got to design it. So let's just say we got approval in September. We go to design for 3 months, 4 months. We have to go out to bid for the for the trade contractor, because we can't wait. We have to bid like January, February, because once you go to bid, we got to award those contracts. And then they have to submit submittal to the city. They have to order the equipment for delivery. It's not that. In fact, we're behind schedule already. So the state schedule is very challenging. And this is if there's no abatement required. If there's abatement required, the 2 schools that we anticipate abatement is Nalmic and Rowena School. Right, Brian McMahon is new, completely renovated, so we don't anticipate environmental issues. Marvin and Brookside, they are replacing the rooftop units, so there's limited issue, even though we run to asbestos or something like that, will be very minimum kind of thing. And then Silvermine, we're doing boilers and adding air conditioning to the gym, so that should be somewhat straightforward. The risk is not high. But when you go for Nalmic and we're waiting to do air conditioning throughout the building, I anticipate that we probably have to go through some kind of remediation next summer before we can put the air conditioning equipment in the year after. because we can't do this during school years. It's just too disruptive. And then abatement, we can't do it during the school year. So it really takes 2 summers. So the schedule the state gave us to finish in December, the discussion is December 2025. It's not rational. So we will be asking extension, but we don't know the schedule until we hire the engineer and start working with them to figure out what the schedule would be. So yeah, there's a time frame that again the state put together is not doesn't work for us. But at the same time, it's we will work with the state to ask for extension as we complete the design to figure out what the scheduling is.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alan somewhat touched on my question. My question was, could you give us kind of a very short narrative of the type of work that needs to be done? I mean, this is much more extensive than just putting a fan in the window. So, you know, where you said you were in some schools we're replacing units on the roof and others, you know, so is there an overall short, you know, narrative in terms of what the scope is so that people understand, you know,
Yes.
the extensive nature of these projects?
Joanne, would you be able to send that out to the member of the committee tomorrow or Friday?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that might have went out to when we went submit to state, I think that might have been part of the old agendas and stuff. So we broke down each building, what we do in each building. Just very quickly, Brookside, you know, it's interesting. When we talk about air quality, sometimes we forget that it's actually a heating system. I'm not, you know, we all kind of accept the fact that, oh, wintertime we have heat, right? But at the same time, not having heat is more important than not having air conditioning, because if you don't have heat in the wintertime, you can't open school at all. I mean, so as much as we spend this money for HVAC, we are actually replacing heating system just as well. So, but at the same time, as the general speaking, the public, you know, for building like Nalmic and Rowayton School, there's no air conditioning. So it's emphasized in the community that we have to do this. But at the same time, maintaining and repairing our heating system is just as important. So beyond that, I think you know, on Marvin and Brookside, those rooftop units are end of life kind of thing. So typically the state doesn't reimburse for replacement for upgrade. So this grant allow us to get 60%. That's why we're expediting these projects. So so for those schools, we are replacing rooftop unit which provide heating and air conditioning. For Silvermine, as I said before, we're doing a boiler plant replacement as well as air conditioning for the gym. For Brian McMahon High School, the existing air conditioning system does not have a backup. So we're looking at a way to put a backup system in, as well as portion of the building, which include the gymnasium wing, does not have air conditioning. So we are looking to put a separate system into that wing. So that also Brian McMahon is also our emergency shelter in case there's a major disaster kind of thing. So having the gymnasium, that's most of the people would be at, would be important. And then the last 2 buildings is Nalmic and Rowayton. We look to, you know, Board of Ed has been doing this project, basically putting air conditioning window unit and some places split unit similar to a restaurant kind of thing into this building. And those costs probably between $800,000 to $1 million for a school kind of thing. The system we're putting here is, generally speaking, it's a permanent system. You know, a window unit is probably last you about 12 years, maybe 15 years, probably the most kind of thing. But for these systems, it's actually permanent installation. So I think these projects to do Nalmic and Rowayton, I think each one is probably like $4 million or $5 million. I forgot the number. Oh, it's actually in the memo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are significant improvements. Here it goes. Rowayton is $10 million for air conditioning. Nalmic $6 million. So they are not like window unit kind of thing. They are really full systems for air conditioning. And these schools, both of these schools have multiple years of multiple building extensions. It makes it that much more trickier to do systems into the building. So it is very challenging to do this project. So we anticipate these two schools would take 2 years to finish because of, again, we got to design it, we got to do abatement next summer, and then the air conditioning system go into summer afterward. So I think I bring this up. The reason being is that I think that the community, the school community, is looking for this right away, but it doesn't happen right away because we can't shut down the school to do these projects. So anyway, so yeah, Joanne, if you could send the committee the full detail each what we do in each location.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Out tomorrow.
Okay, all set, Mr. Burnett? All set?
Yes, thank you. That was very helpful. Again, these are extensive projects and Alan, you hit the key point, you know, they won't go in next week. It's going to take some time and planning, and we wanted, and obviously we can't do the work and disrupt the school day. So you have to figure out how can we get this accomplished and keep the school open at the same time.
Okay, Ms. Edie?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious, you guys probably already know this, but are you doing each project simultaneously or one at a time? I just was curious.
All of them together.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, that's one reason why we're looking at the engineering firm. We actually picked 2 different firms to do it. The
Yes,
number works out, the financial, the bid number works out, but at the same time is that we didn't want to put all 6 projects to one consultant because that you know, this way we give the opportunity to split up the work a little bit. CES, I think I'm jumping up the next topic, but since we're talking about it, the company that we got that we recommend for 4 building, which is Brian McMahon, Marvin, Brookside, and Silvermine. The three of the projects are a little simpler. Brian McMahon is more difficult. So I thought that was a good balance for CES to handle. Meanwhile, Salomon Company, I have never dealt with them, but Blue Hotel has. And also, Salomon had worked in Narrow Mix School when recently we did the building addition for the cafeteria stuff. So they're a little bit familiar with the electrical system in the building already and the mechanical system. So I think that's a little bit of advantage as well. So we thought that giving them those 2 buildings, so we have 2 firms working in 6 buildings. And I think we have to go through the design phase in the next few months and potentially with a bid package together by early spring to go, I mean, late winter to go out to bid in order to that we can do work in next summer. So again, having 2 firms to do this, it's more desirable in my perspective. And also, again, going back to don't want to beat this to death, but having a full-time staff person on site that we work with every day to kind of manage this issue and because when you do renovation like this, improvement, you have to go onto site regularly, you know, coordinate to figure out what the existing utility go through and you know investigate existing condition. So it's very time sensitive in terms of time spent on each project. So being in City Hall and go out every day when they need to kind of is very important. So it's not like every time you go in building, you got to make an appointment with them. You know, they can only come in on Tuesday because they're on other project that, you know, part-time kind of thing. So it's again, so in the future, depends how much we get done next summer. We will have the ability to work with CES to decide whether we can reduce the staffing instead of full-time to part-time. But we'll work on those as we come along. But generally speaking, it's easy to get a full-time person because of full commitment of the staff time to work on these projects. So again, the next year it's absolutely we need somebody full-time to get these project online. You know, approvals and design approval, dealing with the stay and also bidding process and all that. So anyway, thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Dunn?
Hi, can you just curious, why is the 10,000 allowance the same for everything and not a percentage of the overall individual projects?
It's the number I come up with. There's no, this is what happens, right? Sometimes there's time that, you know, we may need to do something. I don't know what that is. It's just allowance. Many times we don't spend any of that. And it's not like a contingency amount. It's different from construction. construction, it's like, we always gonna run to change order and needs. But for program managers, most of the time, we don't need anything.
So who would that go to? Is that part of the, like, I don't know, is that part of the contract then? Or is it part of something within
Oh,
your department that you
Yeah,
need?
we only spend that when there's a need. So I'm the person that I can't even figure a quick scenario or something like this. Sometimes we may want to hire an estimator for doing something. I don't know what it is,
So would you
also,
have to come back to the council to spend
No.
that 10,000, or is it just kind of a slush fund for eventualities?
right. So what happens, let's just say we need to hire somebody to another consultant to do some evaluation or something, whether it's a cost estimator or somebody to look at something, or even like financially, we need somebody to do some evaluation, whatever it may be, kind of thing. So I don't have to come back for common council for $3,000 or $4,000. So it gives me ability to do miscellaneous stuff when we needed to. That's why construction is usually we do about 10% for like DPW paving and stuff like that. We do building construction, we usually do a 5% contingency. So we don't do a 10% for like Brian McMahon High School and not Brian, Norwalk High School and South Norwalk School kind of stuff. We do a 5% contingency. This is just a number I come up with so that, again, if we need something to, if there's require auditing and somebody need to look at some financial stuff for us, we need to hire somebody for like, 3 days or something like that. I want to be able to do it under this contract without going back to the council.
Is that something that the council typically approves in the past?
Yes,
Okay.
for all our architectural contracts, when we go design services, we always do allowances because things come up that we require a sub-consultant to like a roofing consultant sometimes for some very special conditions or water tightness consultant kind of thing to look at certain things. And also we have an environmental consultant that's within those contracts for the architect, but there's sometimes is that the allowance of $25,000 or $30,000 may not be enough, so I need additional money to cover that cost. So it's very common. It's a part of the needs in terms of a hire consultant to have a little bit of contingency, so staff has some flexibility to do the right thing kind of thing without going back to council, because for $3,000 it's just
Alan, can you just clarify then if the monies are not used?
Yeah.
Where do they go?
Nowhere. It just stays in the
They
account.
just stay in the city fund.
Yeah. Even there are times we don't put this number into the contract. There are times after contract when we do approve a contingency, it doesn't show up in the contract at all. So, but when something comes up, I have the ability to go and increase the contract to get additional services because the council authorized the contingency.
Yep.
But they don't get into the contract a lot of times. And chances are this doesn't get in the contract either. It's typically, again, I have the ability to if the council approve 10,000, I have the ability to. This come up, just for example, this come up recently on Jefferson School and Pona School. The state reimbursement period, it takes them 3 to 5 years to get reimbursement to the city. Meanwhile, they hold like 10 or 11% of our money for 5 years. I'm talking to Jim about this. He has an associate that can help us prepare our project for auditing. Okay, it costs a few $1,000s to do auditing. So what happens? We can hire him to do auditing, and also they have because they does auditing for different schools in the state, and they are aware of the auditors, and they can have them after they complete the auditing, they can have them come in to audit the account because they set up exactly how the auditor wants to see it. It's money well worth spending because it's interest for a few years. And the time it's a problem because when the state come down to audit a project 3 to 5 years later, our staff may change, the contractor may change. Any issue is so hard to address them after 3 to 5 years of pass. So to the extent that we finish a project, we can put the books together exactly how the auditor want to see it. It's worth to spend a few $1,000s to get it organized properly to exactly how they want it, and to the extent that we can interest them in coming to audit earlier, I think that's a benefit to the city to close those projects as early as possible. So for something like that, I'm considering spending a few $1,000s to for Jim's office to hire somebody to actually go through this and get it done as quick as possible, so that the state doesn't hold our money for another 3 to 5 years kind of thing. So those are things that I work on behind the scene that the council typically doesn't know about. So when you authorize money like this, there are things that I do that doesn't come to the council, and it's not a substantial amount of money, but at the same time, it's a very cost-effective way of managing some of these secondary issues.
So then why is it not part of the architectural? It looks like you have like the 10% under 3, but not on, you just added the 10,000 for one area, the management.
Yeah. I don't see we need like, I don't see we need like a lot of money. I just needed some money to in case this miscellaneous item come up. Because if we don't approve it, if I want to do $3,000, I gotta come back to Common Council to approve of $3,000.
Are we bonding that money ahead of time or no?
That's interesting. The bonding, when the city approved capital budget allocation, the finance department does not bond the entire project. So the finance department requests me on the projection of when we need the money. So like for example, Norwalk High School, I mean, it's a $239 million project, 80% reimbursable state, and on. It's a very complicated cash flow issues. And so do we bond the $10,000? My answer is no.
My question is, are we paying interest on it? We're not paying interest on it until after it's spent.
For $10,000, we're not paying the interest on it because let's for discussion's sake, for Rowan School, that's like $10 million. So the $10,000 is like, it's not like, it doesn't even come up, right? I mean, they don't go out purposely bond $10,000 for this thing at all. So it's part of project expenses. If we do spend it, then we will bond it. But if we don't spend it, it never get bonded because we never used it.
So they're just bonding the total and the reimbursable, or no?
No, they don't bond the reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you look at, if you look at the backup memo, we talk about city share 40%. The finance department will bond, for example, Brian McMahon's high school projected project cost $8.3 million. The city share $3.3 million. The finance department will bond $3.3 million. So when you talk about $10,000, it's like, it's just get very into the numbers. So do we actually bond the $10,000? No. In fact, when this project approved, nothing has been bonded yet. But I think that these numbers went to the finance department. I think we're looking to bond this money not this year but next year, because by the time we spend this money, it's really next summer. So we need some money to hire the engineering firm and do the initial design phases and stuff like that. But at the same time, actually construction doesn't happen next summer. So that's in almost like July. So the bonding may actually happen next year. So we had this conversation. I had this conversation with Jared already, and how much to bind, and I don't remember the detail of those conversations. But I think we decided maybe he would bind of these 6 projects. I think he's thinking about bonding $2 million or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me on this. That we are not bonding the whole for Brian McMahon. We're not bonding $3 million this year, and most likely he may include some money in here, bond a little bit of this for design services, and plan to bond the construction next year. So I know that's a long answer for a short question. It's $10,000 bonded. Until we use it, it doesn't really get bonded. And also, the state is paying if we bond the $10,000, we only bond 40%, which is $4,000. But again, we don't pick that item up as geez, we got to increase our city's bonding limit by you know, $6,000, $4,000 or something like that. So it's just part of the whole project budget.
Mr. Freyer?
Yeah, I think you pretty much answered what my question was, and that was that for the total amount and when it's going to be spent, have you gone over that with Jared Schmidt in the CFO? Because I think in to comment just on what Heather had to say, a little clarification there. Yeah, you can take this $10,000 and it can be approved, but it's not going to be spent. And if it stays in that account, it's there. And if it's not spent, it can be used for, after you go to the BET and get a transfer allowance, you can use it for something else. So it's not like it goes away or we have to bond it or anything like that necessarily. And I think the bonding also takes place over a period of years. So in other words, we're not going to need 15, if to do these projects is going to be $15 million is our participation in this project, the city participation, we don't have to go up with $15 million right away. So it's what Jared's got to take a look at, see how that spending is going to take place, do a cash flow to find out how much we need. Then he goes and borrows as we need it to take care of what our obligations are. And so you have had that conversation with him, and he's comfortable that we can afford these $15 million over how many years are we going to have to pay? You said, I think what concerned me a little bit, I think Joanne had mentioned that we have 2 years to do this. Are we going to be able to do it in 2 years? And if we are able to do it in 2 years, that means we have to come up with the $15 million in 2 years. And we probably won't get paid for at least another year after that. So this is going to be reimbursed, right?
We get reimbursement along the way, and they hold back. And the project traditionally is 5%, but for last 10 years or so, they've been holding back 11%. So they with the change of administration within the DAS, I think there are changes. I'm not sure what the number is nowadays. So, but yeah, I mean, just once these things get even more complicated. This HVAC project is different from a standard school construction project. They are trying to lighten up. They're trying to make this a little easier for the community at these special grant project, and there's a little more flexibility. But I don't know in terms of auditing whether they are having the same kind of flexibility or not, kind of thing. So it is a little bit of learning curve. This is the second year that this program. Again, when I gather from the other district, I don't communicate with them from hearing about it. The state has a little bit more flexible in terms of their approval process. I mean, all our school construction is very complex. You know, you go up there, you got to do blah blah blah. These are a little simpler because they want to make it easier. Because the dollar amount typically, not a $150 million project kind. These are $3 to $10 million projects. So,
just my only concern is that this has been thoroughly vetted by Jared and his team, and that, when I think about all the other construction that we've got going on, all the other expense that we have out there, can we afford another $15 million over the course of 2 years?
When the city,
that was a question that Mr. Burnett had extensively, and that may have been before you came on the council, Jim. So I know that it's been, it was Henry actually that.
But it's fluid though. It's I think
I'm sorry.
Agree. It's a fluid thing.
Yeah.
If you did something 2 years ago, that doesn't mean that we're going to have the money, because we've got other things that are in the hopper now that we didn't have 2 years ago.
I'm not saying 2 years ago.
Greg, just jump in on this.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yes, I raised that issue because it's $14 million, and we had to make that commitment in order to even put in the application. So we did that with the understanding that the critical need of of this project
Yeah.
and the possibility to get the 60% reimbursement, we made the commitment that we would allocate in the capital plan the $14 million. That being said, that sends the message that there'll be other projects that we're going to have to either push out or put on hold because we can't do everything. So when we put in the application, we put in the application with the understanding that there'll be other projects that we would have to put on hold while we see if we're going to get the grant. We got the grant. So now we have to look at projects that are coming in and determine the priority of those projects with the understanding that this is a priority project that's coming with 60% reimbursement. So Jarrett's aware of that, our CFO is aware of that, and we'll be managing that appropriately along with input from the council.
Right.
And also, I think it's important to note that these 6 projects came from Board of Education. These projects were going to come up the next 3 to 5 years kind of thing, as they one of the 6 of the priority project coming up. So if we didn't pick these up, well, the normal process, most of these projects would not be reimbursed by the state.
Right.
So 60% is significant. When we submitted these 6 projects, I never thought that we would get all 6 projects. I figured we would get 3 of them, and be very honest with you. I mean, but yet I'm not sure it's luck or not, but it's like, you know, it's now we got all 6 projects. What do we do? So we have to expedite them.
But I think the point is that this was I hate to use the word, it was such a good deal, we couldn't refuse it because it's a significant
Right.
savings overall in the city. We've got to pay a lot of money, but if we didn't do this, we'd have to pay a lot more money.
More. But I think the important
Okay.
thing to do, I think I was trying to make a point about this. I think these projects are going to be submitted by the Board of Education for the next 3 to 5 years. I think it's up to the Common Council to look at the future capital budget request from the Board of Education, that similar project not being requested for the next few years, or
Right.
the council may not fund them because we actually funded their future allotments already. So I think it's a reminder that when you go through capital budget review for the next few years, we should not be seeing this type of project for the next 3 to 5. I'm sure there's something, sometimes project come, you have to fund it, right? But at the same time is that we are taking care of 6 projects that will come up for the next 3 to 5 years. So I think the council position should be that the council would not be looking at these similar projects that, I'm not sure the right word here. I don't want to say the wrong thing. You should really be sensitive of what you see from the Board of Education that we funded 6 projects, now we got 6 new projects that they're asking you to fund. I think this took care of 6 projects that's important to them. So they should hold back a little bit in terms of putting pressure on the city to fund additional similar projects in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
it.
just to add to that, Alan, you know, they have, you know, over several years in the past and moving forward until we got these grants, we're adding air conditioning to 1 school a year. Like that was their air conditioning, you know, plan. And we know that that's really important for all of our schools, right? So, you know, after these are done, I'm not really sure how many schools will still need the air conditioning. It's probably only gonna be 1 or 2. And if I'm not mistaken, there are some problems. What is it? Wolf Pit? Wolf Pit seems to like keep being moved down the list and down the list. But if I'm not mistaken, you might know this, Alan, I don't know, but there's some issues that prevent them from being able to actually put air conditioning in that building.
I don't know that. I think it's
Yeah, I heard that.
Most of the time when we do this project for air conditioning, it's really the existing electrical system.
Yeah,
That's
that's
old
what-
and too small that
Yep.
you can take an additional electrical load. Now you upgrade the whole electrical system. When do you do that? Well, it's not that simple. You can do it over the summer kind of thing. So, you know, instead of $400,000, $500,000 item to put air conditioning, it becomes $2.6 million. I don't know what this kind of thing, because you got to run. I don't know. But anyway, it is a kind of difficult, lengthy conversation, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think these projects, we went through the Common Council, we went through the board estimate and the council for special appropriation to fund these projects, and they are funded. And then Greg, I believe that a few months ago, I think Jarrett's finance department actually did a presentation about the city's ability in terms of debt debt requirements and low how much we can afford. So I think if you folks looking for additional detail, I think going back to those presentation will give you the information that what's the affordability of the city to do, how much we can afford to bond in the future kind of thing. So I think the picture that Jared presented and the consultant that presented was a little more favorable than previously that our understanding was. But I don't want to say anymore. That's not my area of expertise.
Fair enough. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so
Real
let-
quick, just real
Go
quick,
ahead.
sorry. Just even more, since he said that we need to watch out for more requests later on. I'm thinking even the scope of work is even more important and maybe be more very specific so we know what to look for if something comes through later on. Thank
yeah,
you.
it would be HVAC related projects. That's what we want to keep an eye out for, particularly. Okay. Okay, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, very good. That's unanimous. And let's move on to item 3, review proposals for engineering architectural services for the 6 school HVAC improvement projects and refer the following to the Common Council for approval. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Consulting Engineering Services, CES, to provide engineering architectural services for the Brian McMahon High School HVAC improvement project, state project noted, for a total not to exceed $290,200 plus $29,020 for allowance for additional services, account number noted. B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Consulting Engineering Services, CES, to provide engineering architectural services for the Brookside Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for a total not to exceed $136,300 plus $13,630 for allowance for additional services, account number noted. C, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Consulting Engineering Services, CES, to provide engineering architectural services for the Marvin Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for a total not to exceed $161,750 plus $16,175 for allowance for additional services, account number noted. D, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Consulting Engineering Services, CES, to provide engineering architectural services for the Silvermine Elementary HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for a total not to exceed $161,670 plus $16,167 for allowance for additional services, account number noted. E, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Salomon and Associates to provide engineering architectural services for the Rowayton Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project account number noted, for a total not to exceed $440,000 plus $44,400 for allowance for additional services, account number noted. F, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Salomon and Associates to provide engineering architectural services for the Narramac Elementary School HVAC improvement project, state project number noted, for a total not to exceed $290,000 plus $29,000 for allowance for additional services, account number noted. Will someone move those items, please? Mr. Freyer. Okay. These are the architects and engineers. We already touched upon this, but Alan, did you have any further comments, or does anyone have any specific questions?
Yeah, I think, if you're curious why I do a 10% continuously on these, is because when you talk about design services, there's more possibility of needing like some different type of sub-consultant services, whether it's structural engineers or something else, because when we replace a rooftop unit, it cannot sit on the existing dunnage, they call it, the framing and stuff. So we need to have a structural engineer come in, and then then on and on. So there's a higher probability that there's some unknown things that require additional services by a sub-consultant and things like that. That's why I did 10%. Meanwhile, program management service is different. There's not a lot, so that's why I did like a $10,000. And again, all the allowances just the money just there's no real money until you actually spend it. So it's really financially, it's not a liability. And the common typically, I do not come, you know, for every project we do a contingency. We never come back and never say anything about, you know, how much is left kind of thing. But at the same time, you only see the time we come back for additional money. So, and that doesn't happen a lot. So again, so these are just allowance that we have the ability to do miscellaneous stuff that make the process much more efficient. Anyway.
Okay. No questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All righty, that is unanimous as well. And so.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe we should have voted on each one of these individually, so I think you need to read each one of them.
Oh, because we have two separate,
No, I'm only joking.
What?
I'm only joking.
I
I'm
knew we
only
didn't have to do that, but then I was like, oh, we have two separate engineering companies. Maybe we do have to do two.
Well, could you
Okay.
just read them again to be sure?
Yes, just read them
Just
again. to
stop
be
it.
sure.
Just stop it. Because if these aren't on consent, I got to read them all again next week. Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I guess that's it. Any final comments before we say goodnight?
Move to adjourn.
You may do that. Okay. All in favor? All right. Very good. All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Ann.